The games are over, but celebrations continue as we look back on the Paris Olympics.
A case of 10 migrant fishers saying they were forced to work without pay for 15 months is putting Taiwan's distant water fishing fleet under scrutiny.
The Philippines calls out China for stoking tensions in the skies above the South China Sea. Plus, an iconic garden in Taipei is getting a life-saving redesign for some of its smallest inhabitants. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Philip Brossard. Taiwan's national team has wrapped up a memorable 19 days at the Paris Olympics. While this year wasn't the team's best showing, the highs, the lows, and a fair amount of uproar kept Taiwanese fans back home glued to their screens. John Van Trieste has this report.
From the moment the national team took to stage in Paris, fans were ecstatic. Officially, the team must compete under the name Chinese Taipei to sidestep the issue of Taiwan's political status. But as the team floated down the Seine, a French TV anchor declared that this team came from Taiwan. Taiwan! Fans were unable to believe their ears. This was the start of a games marked by a swelling of pride in the face of what many Taiwanese saw as moves to belittle their nation. There were moments of bitter disappointment. 30-year-old weightlifter Guo Xingjun fought back tears after getting bronze and failing to defend her title in what may be her last games. She had struggled to recover from long-standing injuries.
就把它当作最后一届赛局嘛，然后也希望自己能够享受这样的舞台，然后当然就是跟教练说，就是不用管说现在是铜牌银牌，我们就是要。就是最后一局了，然后想要拼拼看。
But there were also moments of sheer joy. For the second games in a row, badminton duo Li Yang and Wang Qilin beat China for the gold. China claims Taiwan and regularly threatens the country with military force. But on the badminton court at least, the Taiwanese underdogs had triumphed.
能再次站上颁奖台，然后又可以让国旗哥在会场去做播放，我们真的觉得非常的感动。那一刻真的是有哽咽。
那时候我们真的很感谢现场所有观众跟支持声吧，然后在荧幕后面的所有人，因为他们的鼓励，我们才可以继续在场上坚持。
Taiwan's dignity is always a touchy issue at the Games. Like the name Taiwan, the country's national flag and anthem are both nowhere to be found. But this year, things got especially heated, as even signs of support for Taiwan's athletes were confiscated, some by Olympic officials, others by angry Chinese supporters. And then there was the case of boxer Lin Yuting. In addition to her rivals, Lin had to overcome a wave of online abuse over rumors about her gender, rumors the IOC says are unfounded. Big names who weighed in included Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling. But in Lin's hometown of New Taipei, fans, including the mayor, gathered to watch her take Taiwan's first ever gold in boxing.
我觉得这块金牌不仅是对于我个人，更是对于台湾一个蛮重要的里程碑啦。不仅是台湾体育，或是台湾的拳击，都是一个非常重要的里程碑。那今天拿到这块奖牌，这块金牌，在奥运场，尤其是在奥运场上。 也就是证明了说，我们台湾人也可以做得到。
In the end, Taiwan won just 2 gold and 5 bronze medals, not its best showing. But even without a national flag to rally around, Taiwanese fans have come together around their sporting champions, who've shown that despite its small size, Taiwan can still punch above its weight. Luffy Li and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
As France said goodbye to the Paris Games, Taiwanese gold medalist boxer Lin Yuting and track athlete Yang Junhan carried the flag for their team. The previous day, Lin had won Taiwan's second gold medal despite controversy over her gender eligibility. Olympic organizers say Lin is qualified to compete. Taiwan, competing as Chinese Taipei, finished with 7 medals, 3 of which came in the boxing ring. The next Summer Olympics will be held in Los Angeles in 2028. As the Paris Summer Games came to an end on Sunday, the Cultural Olympiad also wrapped up in the French capital. That's a companion event to the Olympics featuring performing artists from around the world. Taiwan's delegation included a blend of different performers, showcasing the country's unique culture. Sandy Chi has the details.
Traditional, modern, religious, groovy, beautiful. All describe Taiwan's showing at this year's Cultural Olympiad, where over 120 Taiwanese performers and artists showcased their talent on the international stage at the Parc de la Villette in Paris.
那对文化来讲，百变台湾是一个不错的形容词，因为台湾为什么会百变，就是在历史的中间，我们遇到了非常多不同的文明的撞击，我们必须为了求生存，我们的民间的生命力很强，就发展出很多新的样貌的文化。
The event was held alongside the Paris Summer Games and explored the powerful connections between art, athletics, and cultural diversity. Now it has come to an end. Over 70,000 people attended the 15-day Taiwan contingent at the Cultural Olympiad, which featured a whopping 57 performances.
来的实在太多人所以可以看到，就是我们台湾的文化其实真的是蛮吸引法国人，还有世界然后世界真的是看台湾的眼神不一样了，世界真的很支持台湾。
The event brought overseas Taiwanese home and gave the international audience a taste of Taiwan.
On est arrivé vraiment pour ce show-là et vraiment je trouvais ça super, l'ambiance, les costumes, la musique. Je trouvais que c'était hyper bonne ambiance et ouais, je trouvais que tout le monde dansait, tout le monde chantait ensemble, c'était vraiment cool à voir.
The music was very good. Like I came in here without expecting anything, and I get like so much vibe out of it. I love it so much. So let's go Taiwan music as well.
Pulling it off was no easy feat. Taiwan's participation was fraught with challenges as the country faces pressure from China. Just joining the event drew criticism from Beijing, and Taiwan was barred from using its name or any imagery involving the national flag or outline of the country's main island at the event. Instead, Taiwan's pavilion at the Olympiad included the destination TPE.
对台湾来说，这是我们的日常。我们走出国门的时候，走上国际舞台的时候 ，always 要面对这个议题。那更不要说是到奥运的相关的活动，我想我们心里已经有所准备。
Despite the challenges, this year's Cultural Olympiad seized the opportunity to include Taiwan.
当奥运自己也说它是以平权、创新、自由为号召的时候，其实它也很难反对这些价值跟理念。那台湾就在这样的价值跟理念中得到了生存的空间。
In the end, the Paris Cultural Olympiad was an opportunity for Taiwan's performers to demonstrate their creativity, talent, and passion to a big audience, and to show the world how the country thrives in the face of diversity. Brian Wu, Yu Chen-lai, Peachy Zhuang, and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's government is investigating the case of 10 Indonesian fishers who say they were forced to work on board a Taiwanese-flagged fishing vessel for 15 months without being paid. The ship's owners say the allegations are false, but the case has once again raised concerns over the treatment of migrant crews on board Taiwan's fishing boats. Rick Laut reports from Pingdong County.
Indonesian fisher Zulkifli Somena is relieved to be back on dry land. He spent 15 grueling months at sea catching tuna on board a Taiwanese fishing ship. It was only when he got back to port that he found out he hadn't been paid. And worse, while he was on the ship, his wife had a miscarriage.
Ya, saya menyesal karena nggak mendampingin istri saya melahirkan. Saya merasa bersalah. Sampai saya nggak bisa kirim uang sepeser pun, saya merasa berdosa lah istilahnya.
He's one of 10 crew members on the Taiwan-flagged ship Youfu, who say they were tricked into such a long voyage and suffered abuse at the hands of their captain, without enough food, drinking water and medicine. While on the ship, they slept just a few hours a day and only received their salaries weeks after returning to shore. The ship's owners, a Taiwanese husband and wife, reject the accusations of mistreatment and say payments were delayed because they ran into financial trouble.
阮迄阵出港了无好，阮船东里厝的烦恼啊， 烦恼无趁钱啊，吼对无？啊，所以讲油贵啊，中原的薪水悬啊。
But the ship's crew and human rights activists warn that this case is indicative of the abuse migrant fishers working on Taiwanese ships receive at sea. Taiwan has the second largest distant water fishing fleet in the world, made up of more than 1,000 ships like these. They usually spend months at sea without docking at port and rely on the work of tens of thousands of migrant labourers, mainly from the Philippines and Indonesia. These migrants do not receive the same labour rights protections as other workers in Taiwan. The country's tuna industry is worth $1.3 billion each year. But many fishers say they're recruited with false promises and forced to work under poor conditions by employers and agents who withhold their passports and wages.
There are systematic failures that led to their condition, such as no means of communication at sea, expensive and limited options while they're in distant ports, and this is the norm for the fishers.
The government knows the situation for migrant fishers is a stain on the country's strong human rights record, and officials say they've been trying to clean up the industry.
所以我们在德签计划里面也有编列预算去补助 WiFi 的设备。另外，在那个内政部移民署他们的人口贩运防治法的规定，你如果违反了人口贩运防治的规定的话，我们就会移送检调单位去裁处啊。
But the industry is struggling from dwindling sea stock and rising operational costs, increasing pressure on those at sea and on shore. Migrant fishers, like the crew of Yofu, bear the brunt of the industry's dangerous, labour-intensive work. But, they say, there is a limit to what they can endure to give their families back home a better life. Andy Xue and Rick Lowett in Pingdong County for TaiwanPlus.
Now, for more on the situation facing migrant fishers in Taiwan, Rick Lowett spoke to a researcher on migrant issues, Isabel Cockle of the University of Portsmouth.
Could you tell us a bit about the conditions under which migrant fishers work and how do they differ from other workers in Taiwan?
I think the biggest difference is that they are far and remote and out of touch. They have a life run at the high seas without being in any contact with any other people, because the issue is that they may not have the Wi-Fi or the satellite phone, which is also a key issue in this particular case. The other problems come with that problem, because when you are far and out of touch and not being able to contact people at home or with your employer, then you're really at mercy of the management of the captain and also the structure of the crew.
Taiwan is often commended for its progress on human rights and being a democratic country, but it has this issue with how it treats its migrant workers. Why do you think that is?
This is an issue of class, gender, and ethnicity being intersected with each other and created a structure where people from Southeast Asia will be discriminated. I think the most obvious challenge for us is that if we want to maintain productivity, be that manufacturing industry, could produce their products on demand and punctually and in a good quality, or our very sick people, young people, and those elderly people to have good quality of care, then we rely on migrant workers. However, they're being employed as a supplement to our national workforce. They're seen as temporary workers because they are not allowed to apply for residency.
The issues facing migrant fishers has been flagged to the government for a long time now. How successful have government efforts to reform the industry been, and what are migrant fishers asking for?
The more recent campaign that has been launched by the civil society organizations is the Wi-Fi campaign. I think that is a key element key improvement that can prevent issues like this particular case, where the communication between the agent and the workers and the communication between the owner and the fishers can be improved if a Wi-Fi is available on their vessels. So I think overall the workers, if we put in principle, then what they need, what they want, and what they demand is to be treated as workers and enjoying the rights granted to workers. Fishermen, particularly the distant water fishermen and domestic workers, are not protected by the Labour Standard Act, and that seemed to be the root cause of their grievances.
That was Isabel Cockle of the University of Portsmouth speaking to Rick Glowert about migrant fisher rights. Migrant workers in Taiwan navigate a difficult life away from their home countries. Now some of them are finding comfort and community in music. At one event in southern Taiwan, several bands took the stage to support labor rights and protections for migrant fishers. Tiffany Wong reports.
Spreading peace and love with reggae music. The five-piece Gu-Hit band, whose members are Filipino migrant workers, rev up the crowd at this event in the southern port city of Kaohsiung. The audience, many of them fellow migrant workers from the Philippines and Indonesia, are gathered here in support of migrant fishers. The band hopes that their grooves will bring joy to their community, despite the many struggles they face.
Music is it gives us freedom to speak our feelings or what's deep inside us, and music can give us peace of mind. We're so stressful at work, so that's why music is very important to us.
Most of Taiwan's 750,000 migrant workers are from Southeast Asia, working essential jobs in the country's manufacturing, agricultural, and fishing industries, and taking care of its elderly population, only to face long working hours and low wages. Many also deal with abuse and discrimination. But here at this concert, these migrant performers say they want to celebrate the diversity they bring to Taiwan.
我们来台湾也是不是工作而已啊，我们也可以我们喜欢的什么东西啊，我们可以继续追那个梦想。刚好台湾的国家都是很支持我们那些外劳这样子。
But some say the government needs to do more to make life easier for these essential workers, who are trying to support their families back home. The organizers of the event specifically called attention to the plight of migrant fishers, who often spend months out at sea, unable to contact family or access help.
Being a fisherman is not easy at all. They would like to have some contact with families, with NGO, with maybe a government agency when they would like to report anything. Different NGO are urging Taiwan governments, also the ship owners, to continue to install this Wi-Fi on board for fishers.
Despite the daily frustrations they face in Taiwan, music has given these migrant workers a rare outlet, allowing them to come together and let their talents and dreams shine. Kamashri and Tiffany Wong in Kaohsiung for TaiwanPlus.
The Philippines is condemning China's Air Force for what it calls aggressive action in the skies above the South China Sea. That's after two of its fighter jets fired flares near a Philippine aircraft flying near the Scarborough Shoal. That's an area both countries claim as their own. Although clashes between the two countries' ships are common, this incident has sparked concerns that the territorial dispute could expand to the skies. For more on this, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Aaron Matthew Lariosa, a security analyst in Chicago.
Aaron, I want to first start off with asking you, how dangerous was this incident where this Chinese aircraft launched flares so close to the Philippine aircraft?
You know, there's a pretty big escalation by the Chinese in regards of incidents, and you know, it could be argued that this is part of the trend that we've been seeing since last fall, where the Chinese slowly step up their assertiveness and their aggressive actions against Philippine assets, whether that be aircraft or vessels. You know, the aerial stuff takes kind of a backseat compared to the maritime incidents where we see more severe incidents. But the videos we've seen, right, really drastic change of pace. Chinese aircraft dropping flares and doing evasive maneuvers or disruptive maneuvers in front of other aircraft is not a new thing. I believe there was a recent incident earlier this year with an Australian aircraft, a helicopter. So, it's just very concerning regarding the Philippine scenario.
Do you think the Philippines is concerned that tensions in the South China Sea, which are usually between ships, is not going to spread between aircraft in the skies?
For sure, that's actually been something that's actually been something that's been on the table, especially when we talk about maritime cooperative activity. So that's basically the term for joint patrols between Manila and other partners such as Canberra, Tokyo, Ottawa now, and now Washington. So that when you bring in aircraft into the equation, the Chinese will probably get up there, as we've seen across the Indo-Pacific. So the main issue, of course, with the Philippines is if it really expands to this domain, how exactly do you counter that? We've seen a lot of hard-learned lessons from Taiwan, right? Where like ROCAF gets a bit exhausted because they have to keep getting their planes up and meeting these guys. And when we look at the Philippine aerial domain capabilities, right? They only have 12 fighter jets. Their radar coverage is very limited. How exactly do you counter these? And that's a challenge that Manila might have to start thinking about going forward, especially after this incident.
This incident happens at the same time that China and the United States are conducting separate exercises. Do you think we're going to see a trend where both sides kind of feel that the South China Sea is too small to operate in this waterway?
For sure, that's a big concern. But right now, the prerogative is everything at Manila's pace. So these joint patrols, all come at the discretion of Manila. And definitely there are measures the United States could do to support that, whether it be, FONOPs in the area or just doing their own air and maritime activities. As we've seen recently, $500 million in aid to the Philippines. So that's a big, and they explicitly said that's focusing on getting the Philippines to defend its sovereignty, specifically the Philippine military and the Philippine Coast Guard. So there's a lot of initiatives we could see where these, it might be like these two big powers clambering around the South China Sea.
That was security analyst Aaron Matthew-Lariosa speaking with our reporter Jaime Okan. Taiwan's economy minister is pushing for the country to be the Asian hub for the global drone supply chain by 2028.
那我希望这个亚创中心的厂商能够踊跃地提出申请，那么提升制造能力，期许透过中央部会的资源挹注，那么凯同嘉义县政府共同打造无人机产业聚落，那么加速来推动国内无人机厂商走向国际。
Guo Zhihui was speaking at the Asia Drone AI Innovation and Application Expo in Chiayi County. He says he expects Taiwan's drone industry to be worth over $9 billion by 2028. Taiwan's government and military is emphasizing drone development after seeing Ukraine successfully use drones in its fight against Russia's invasion. Japan has issued an emergency warning across the country's northeast after Typhoon Maria made a landfall on Monday morning. The highest level alert covers over 8,000 residents in Iwate Prefecture as the government moves to release water from a local dam and prepare shelter for evacuees. The storm has brought record-breaking rain to the region, with floods inundating several areas and trains and flights canceled. Officials are warning of landslides and high waves. No casualties have been reported so far. Visitors to Taipei's Botanical Garden at night may notice a different atmosphere, one with softer lighting. Irene Lin investigates what's behind the new look and how it's protecting the local wildlife.
A soft golden glow illuminating the paths of a city oasis. These are some of the new street lamps in Taipei Botanical Garden. They're part of the Green Glow project, a collaboration with a local light manufacturer to replace old street lamps that were hurting wildlife.
它的一个状况就是会在单点的地方会比较亮，然后但是它灯光的在扩大消散的速度非常的快，所以就容易造成其实我们在视觉上没有看到一个一个的涂亮边。
These bright spots are a silent killer to light-attracted insects, such as this newly found species of beetle called Maridaba taipei, named after Taiwan's capital. Contact between the beetle's coat shells and the heated glass of the old-style lights is a deadly combination, and the architecture of the lights also creates problems.
因为昆虫在这边嘛，蝙蝠或者是一些鸟类，它其实是吃昆虫。它为了要捕捉昆虫，这里有昆虫，它就会跑过来。那可以看到这个其实还有柱子，然后再加上这边还是凸起来的，它其实飞过来的时候，它就很容易撞到。
Keeping both its wildlife and human visitors safe at night is a priority of the garden, as parts of it are open at night for people to enjoy bits of nature in urban life. What often gets ignored in this nightfall crisis, however, are the plants. Many of them that grow on trees rely on these nocturnal insects to survive.
当夜间的光不断的照射的时候，把这些夜间的昆虫吸引过去，其实也是让它丧失了能够晚上被授粉的机会。
The new lamps may be a solution. They stand much taller than the old landscape lights and give off a softer glow, so as not to attract bugs while keeping the roads well lit for pedestrians.
3000K 以下的这样子低色温的灯，已经是普遍上面大家认为是比较不容易吸引昆虫的。那我们现在这一批新的灯具呢，我们现在甚至于是用到2700K 的灯具。那这样子的灯具其实是还蛮有效的，是让昆虫聚集的状况是更明显的下降。
The garden has also applied the new bulbs to street signs, helping humans and nature coexist in the heart of Taipei. James Lin and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us on TaiwanPlus News. Visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out these highlights from the Cliff Diving World Series. I'm Brossard. Take care, and we'll see you next time.